Indiana had 9 road games moved to larger arenas last year, but just 4 so far for 2026. WNBA teams are moving more games to different arenas this upcoming season, but Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever have significantly fewer of those games. The WNBA's regular season schedule announced Wednesday, including 19 games moved to different arenas, up from 15 last year.
9 games got cut down to 4. That's not just a random schedule change. Last season, 9 Indiana Fever road games were moved to bigger NBA arenas because huge crowds wanted to see Caitlin Clark. This year, it's only 4 games. But the league moved more games overall, from 15 to 19. So if more fans want tickets than ever, why are there fewer Fever games in the biggest arenas?
The Washington Mystics, Connecticut Sun, and Atlanta Dream each moved 1 game against Indiana last year, but none for the upcoming season. The New York Liberty, Portland Fire, Mercury, Valkyries, and Minnesota Lynx are already in NBA arenas, removing any need to move games for bigger crowds. Is part of this due to injuries? Well, they would like you to believe that, I think. They would like you to believe, oh, well, she got injured last year. We don't want to move. We don't want to commit to a bigger arena. God forbid she gets injured again.
Here's where the league's reason starts to sound shaky. They want people to think it's about injuries. Caitlin got hurt at TD Garden on July 15, and they say teams don't want to risk big venue plans again. That sounds fair until you look at attendance. Even after she said she wasn't coming back, those moved games still sold out. The Fever averaged 15,884 fans at road games last season, about 4,000 more than any other team, and Caitlin only played in 3 of the 9 moved games before she got hurt.
You have names like Renee Montgomery, part owner of the Atlanta Dream. Names like Sheila Johnson, part owner of the Washington Mystics. Sheila Johnson, the same person who threw a fit that Caitlin Clark was named Time Magazine's Woman Athlete of the Year. And she said, why give it to Caitlin Clark? Let's give it to the whole entire league. If you ask me, this is a subtle play from folks like Sheila Johnson and Renee Montgomery. Because at the end of the season, they decreased the amount of Fever games that have been moved to bigger arenas. Yet in totality, they increased the league from 15 games to 19 games.
Now look at who's choosing this. Renee Montgomery is part owner of the Atlanta Dream. Sheila Johnson is part owner of the Washington Mystics. And Sheila Johnson is the one who complained when Time Magazine named Caitlin Clark Athlete of the Year. She said they should have honored the whole league instead. Last year, the Dream moved 1 Indiana game to State Farm Arena. This year, they moved 0. The Mystics moved 1 last season and 0 this season. The Connecticut Sun moved a game to TD Garden where Caitlin got hurt. This year, they don't have anything moved yet either.
In big arenas 4 times this season. You see how massive the season was? You see how much of a success it was this year? And we only had Caitlin Clark. See, we don't really need her. I told you guys we were going to do this without her. Interesting. The decrease in moved Fever games comes after Caitlin Clark played in just 13 games last season. Clark appeared in just 3 of the 9 moved road games, including July 15th against the Connecticut Sun at TD Garden. Clark injured her groin in the 4th quarter of that game and missed the remainder of the season. The Fever remained the league's biggest attendance draw last year, averaging 15,884 fans for their road games.
Here's what really gives it away. Last year, the Chicago Sky and Dallas Wings each moved 2 games to bigger arenas. This year, they each have only 1. But Toronto's new expansion team has 5 games moved to different venues, including 2 in Montreal and 2 in Vancouver. So the league will move games when it wants big crowds and new markets. They're just keeping the number of big venue Fever games low on purpose. The numbers make it clear moved games went up from 15 to 19. But Fever games in big arenas dropped from 9 to 4. That doesn't look like an accident.
Person tells Front Office Sports. But teams could still change course before the WNBA regular season starts. I think that is likely. It's easier to say, oh, we're gonna show everybody that we know this league is good with or without Caitlin Clark. We're gonna prove it. But once you talk to your owner buddies and they say, look how much we made. I mean, Indiana Fever came to town. Look how much we're making, right? Once Renee Montgomery and Sheila Johnson talk to the owner of the Las Vegas Aces, talk to the owner of the Chicago Sky, and they say, hey, what was that gate looking like? Oh, damn. That's a lot of money.
Now look at the 4 games they did move. July 5 versus Vegas, August 8 versus the Sky, August 18 versus Toronto, and August 20 versus Dallas. See the pattern? They're all later in the season, after the early hype is gone. Last year, the league put fever games in NBA arenas right away to cash in on the biggest Caitlin Clark buzz. This year, it looks like they're trying to create early season excitement without her, then use the big arenas later. There's also another issue people aren't talking about. The new player agreement still isn't finished. The 2026 season could even start late. If you run an NBA arena, why would you lock in WNBA dates early when the season schedule could change? You'd rather keep those dates open for big concerts and shows. If those don't book, then you can add a fever game later. But you don't want to promise anything too soon.
During the 2025 season against the Fever. The 2025 schedule was released 2 months earlier. The Dream announced in March that their game on May 22nd against Indiana would be moved to the State Farm home arena, home of the NBA's Hawks. The Wings announced a week later that they moved a game against the Fever to American Airlines Arena. A Dream spokesperson tells Front Office Sports that they are always exploring new opportunities. The 2026 WNBA season remains in jeopardy of not starting on time, as the league and its union have yet to come to terms on a new collective bargaining agreement.
And we have already seen how late these changes can happen. The Sky said in February 2025 they were moving their first 2 games against the Fever to the United Center, even though the schedule came out 2 months earlier. The Dream said in March they were moving a May 22 game against Indiana to State Farm Arena. A week later, Dallas moved a Fever game to American Airlines Center. All of that happened after the schedule was already public. A Fever spokesperson told Front Office Sports they can't speak for other teams, but teams could still change venues before the season starts. In plain words, more changes could still be coming once teams realize how much money they're missing.
That there's no CBA deal reached. If I'm an owner of an NBA arena, if I'm in charge of selecting what events gets put in these arenas, well, without a CBA deal reached, why would I want to start already Xing out dates with potential WNBA games when I can keep those dates open for when a Jonas Brothers come to town, when a Taylor Swift comes to town, when a Luke Bryan or whoever come to town? Why would I start Xing out these dates? I wouldn't. It's not smart. I want to keep those dates open as long as I possibly.
This puts team owners in a tough spot. Some owners want to prove the league's success isn't about one player. They said the WNBA was already growing and Caitlin Clark just showed up at the right time. For them, it's about pride and the league's story. But other owners will tell you the truth about money. When the Fever came to town last year, some teams made way more cash. Moving a game from a 7,000-seat arena to a 20,000-seat NBA arena isn't a small change. It can be a huge difference for teams that have struggled to make profit.
Keep those dates open for possible bigger events. And if nobody takes those dates, fine. Then we'll slide a couple Indiana Fever games in here. But until then, we're keeping these dates open. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I appreciate all the support. Like the video. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me. See you next time, and as always, take it easy.
So now, there's a tug of war between pride and money. The compromise seems to be this: schedule fewer Fever games in big arenas early and say it's because of injuries or planning. Then they wait and see what happens. If attendance stays high without Caitlin, they can say, see? It wasn't about her. If attendance drops, they can quietly move more games later, just like they did with those February and March announcements. This plan is risky. Last season, even though Caitlin missed most of the year, the Fever still led the league in road attendance by a huge amount, about 15,880 fans per game, compared to about 11,000 for the next team. And those tickets sold out before anyone knew she'd get hurt. The demand was real. This year, teams are hoping fans will stay excited for other reasons: Toronto joining, Portland coming, new rivalries, new stars. Maybe it works. Maybe new fans stick around. Or maybe they learn that star power still matters, and casual fans need a big reason to watch. The media side matters too. The league pointed to strong TV numbers as proof. It wasn't all about Caitlin. even though she played only 13 games. But Fever Games still pulled the biggest audiences, even when she didn't play, because people hoped she'd return or wanted to see what happened without her. This season, with fewer Fever Games in the biggest arenas and best time slots, we'll see the real test. Are people watching the WNBA, no matter what? Or mostly for certain stars and stories? And if the numbers drop, the league has excuses ready: CBA problems, schedule issues, outside reasons. Then they can quietly move more Fever Games to bigger arenas again. Teams like the Mystics and Sun moved Indiana games last year, but not yet this year. Watch what happens later when they compare the money they made last season to what they expect now. Injury worries can disappear fast when the lost revenue gets too big. Because in pro sports, pride matters until it starts costing millions. Owners can talk about team success and league growth, but ticket sales, sponsor deals, and very important person seats are real money. The Caitlin Clark effect is already proven by attendance and ratings. The real question is whether the league is willing to fully use it or whether pride and politics will slow down their own growth. Right now, they seem to want both. Say the league doesn't need one star, but still schedule just enough Fever Big to arena games to grab some of the cash. That middle path makes fans mad, and it leaves money sitting on the table. Toronto's 5-move games also give the league cover. They can point and say, look, we're growing into new markets. But that still doesn't answer the main question. Was last season a one-time Caitlin Clark spike that will fade? Or did she help create real long-term growth? We're about to find out. Keep watching those late announcements. Watch which teams suddenly can move games after all. And watch how the story changes if early season crowds don't match last year. So what do you think? Is the WNBA being smart by not depending on one star, or are they wasting a huge chance because of pride?